Are you all set? And Ryan, it's going out to the outside, not just in here? Excellent, very good. Can I start now, Nick? Very good, okay, very good. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting. Monday, November 1st, 7:30. Hope you enjoyed the music on your way in. Just a quick public statement. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure to the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with these provisions of this act, the School District of the Chathams has, I think I know this by now, has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerk for the Chatham Borough, Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Peter, would you mind taking attendance?
Sure. Mr. Gilfillan. Mr. Arnick. Ms. Chigarelli.
Here.
Ms. Clark. Mr. Del Sandro.
Hello. Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Ryan. Mr. Smith.
Hi.
And Ms. Weber.
Here.
6 present and accounted for.
Excellent. If you're able to, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is right behind Peter. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Excellent. So I do actually have a quick announcement, which saddens me to say this or read this letter, but I received a letter from Sal Arnock, one of our board members who's been with us for several years. Sal wrote, "I won't be in attendance Monday, so I'm sending this letter and wouldn't mind somebody reading it." Sal writes, "This is not an easy letter to write, so I will keep it as brief as I can. I am resigning from my role as a Board of Ed volunteer effective today, November 1st, 2021. I do so with sadness, as I have truly loved serving on the school district of this great town. Unfortunately, my schedule and responsibilities have not allowed me to be as active in my role as I had been in the past, and this school district deserves better than that. I am not in attendance in this evening, as frankly I think I would be more emotional than I would like to be in public, and so I ask you instead to read my letter. In parting, I would like to express how in awe I am of our school district staff from top to bottom. Mike LaSousa is a gutsy yet measured leader and an incredible asset to our community. He has steered us through crisis, tackled the mental well-being of our students proactively, and presided over a balanced curriculum that highlighted diverse offerings in STEM as well as American Sign Language. On Wall Street, when a new stock issue is coming to market, we read something called an S1 provided by the company that highlights risk issues. In our school district, if our school district were a company, right up front it would be highlighted that a significant risk for our school district is the ability to keep Dr. LaSousa at the helm. I hope his efforts are never taken for granted. Similarly, I would like to express how much I enjoyed working with Peter, Karen, Beth, and so many others. Peter, I'll see you down the shore. Finally, I want to express my respect and admiration for my fellow board members and former board members, Mike Valenti and Richard Connors. Thank you. Rich always encouraged me to speak up and loudly, even as a newbie whose instinct was to keep quiet and listen. Jill, you are an amazing president, and your dedication and balance is infectious to the rest of the board. Similarly, Matt, your experience and leadership, especially in finance, was an inspiration to me. Michelle, Lotta, Ann, Chris, Mike, Brad, thank you for being the balanced and reasoned professionals that you have always been. It was an honor to work alongside each and every one of you. Humbly yours, Sal Arnock, Chatham Township. And as many of you know, Sal was just a fantastic board member. He was just a salt of the earth kind of guy, and balanced, and really was just able to cut right to the moral compass of things and help put us on the right path. So Sal is going to be sorely missed. Now Sal Arnock is a township resident, so Bradley, Lotta, Michelle, and Matt, what will happen is folks in the past will throw their hat in the ring. You'll meet with them and then make a recommendation to the full board. And Peter, remind me for the 57th time, that has to be done in 30 days or 60 days?
60.
60 days. I think I'd remember that too. Okay, so I don't know if anybody else wanted to say something about Sal, besides what a great guy he is. I'm sorry? Nothing else to say, I know, besides that. He's just a great guy. Kind of the drop the mic kind of fella. Okay, so that was the all I had on president's comments. So Dr. LaSusa, I'm going to send it right over to you. Oh, sorry. Lotta would like to add something. Oh,
Do you have a date when you want people to contact Peter?
yes, I mean, starting now.
Yes, but there should be an end date, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, 60 days, we have to have somebody in place, correct? A recommendation to the board?
We do, and I'm sure the county would let us appoint the person at the first meeting in January, which I believe is the 7th or the 10th, to stretch the 60 days since we run into a Christmas,
Okay,
I'm sorry, a December holiday break.
okay, so the township,
Should we say by the end of this month?
end of November,
End of November, and then we have all of,
you have a couple weeks to do,
are you okay with that?
go ahead. Yeah, usually you send an email to Peter.
Just send an email to me.
Yeah, typically with their interests, some people send a resume, not necessary, but, express their interests, and then it's just a one-year position until the next election, correct?
I'm trying to remember, I think Sal's term is up in 2022, so the person would just run for the 3-year term next November.
If you're right, if they choose.
Yeah, I believe the term expires in 2022.
Or they could just fill in from January to December.
Right,
They don't have to run again.
correct.
But I think our expectation, as a board member, I would hope that the person who steps up would want to run.
Right. I'm just thinking if like Condoleezza Rice threw her hat in the ring, and she only said I could do 1 year, you might want to take her. The week after Thanksgiving?
Week after Thanksgiving, yeah, that's good.
So you want resumes, or not resumes, but interest up until Thanksgiving, and then you'll try and do meet and greets after that.
Right.
Is that okay? It's really up to the township to decide how they want to, what structure they want to use.
That's fine with me.
It's fine with me. yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So what date is that? I think we should say specifically.
The end of November
I don't know when Thanksgiving falls.
is 11:30, and then the following week,
Yes. So Thanksgiving is the 25th, so I say we make it, all interest should be done by November 30th.
Right.
And then we meet in the first week of December.
Okay, Matt was suggesting though, you're fine?
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of November for interest, and then first week in December, you guys will start meeting folks, okay?
Yes.
You good, Bradley? You good
I'm
with
good,
that?
yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So November, interest, and start the first week of December, meeting people. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Lotta. Mike?
Thank you, and I, of course, wish Sal Arnuk all the best with his newfound time, and hope that he's happy and remains in touch with us. A few items from me. First is I'd like to thank the high school staff and the parents for helping put together the homecoming celebration that's happening outside right now. We've got over 1,000 students that really look like they're enjoying themselves, and it took a lot of effort to make that happen and some flexibility because we thought we would have some pretty bad weather over the weekend and moved it to Monday night. But it looks like it's going well and the kids are really enjoying it. So that's kudos to them. Second thing, Mike Ryan asked a question and he wanted me to answer it in public at the board meeting so everyone could hear. And his question was about the supply chain and whether it is affecting our food service provision to students. And so the short answer is that we are being affected by the supply chain issues and that our food service provider is experiencing difficulty securing certain items from paper products and certain types of foods, but to this point, that has not disrupted service to students. It's just altered some of the materials that they're using to serve students, and limited some of the choices that they otherwise might have. But so far, it has not been a significant disruption for our food service provider, which is Chartwell's. Third thing is the state has given us all of the contact information and details and so forth for the state providers of testing. So the state, as you may recall, the Department of Health and the Department of Education have worked to provide every county in the state with a vendor for the purpose of offering testing to staff members who might be unvaccinated or to students who might need or want, whose parents might want COVID testing. So we plan to have that back up and running. If you recall, we did that in the spring every Friday at the middle school. We're going to start that up again beginning November 12th. And any parent who for some reason wants their child to be tested for COVID, whether there was an exposure or they're planning on visiting a relative or something for whatever reason, we'll be doing that again after school at Chatham Middle School from 3 to 4 p.m. is the preliminary time frame. And any parent would just be able to show up with their child, and there would be no cost, is my understanding, for the testing.
And that's on Fridays?
That'll be Fridays.
Okay. And what type of test? It's not a rapid, correct?
No, it's a PCR.
And they will get the results directly? It will not come to the school?
I believe so.
Okay. They might want to...
There's a form, a release form that a parent would have to sign, just like last year when Atlantic Health Systems was on site. So very similar, just a different provider.
Do you know of the people who are doing the testing?
A lot of ask the capacity of the testing.
They were going to start with 25 and see how that went. At the end of last year, we started off with a fair number of folks who were interested in having testing done, but it dwindled by the end of the year to very few. And in June, I think they were, for the most part, canceling the sessions because they weren't getting any signups.
Okay, we'll see how it goes. So November 12th, Friday, after school at the middle school,
Yes.
if parents...
And I'll communicate that out once I have some, final details.
And a student has to be with a parent, correct, if they're minors?
Correct.
Okay, just,
Yep.
I want to be clear. You can't just say, oh, stay after school and get tested.
No.
You have to be with your student.
Yes. And then we're continuing to work with the Department of Health and wait for their receipt of, approval/receipt of vaccine for students between the ages of 5 through 11. And there are departments of health also throughout New Jersey working with local school districts to set up vaccination sites or clinics as soon as they receive their doses and as soon as the CDC makes the final approval. So as soon as that happens on our end, we'll work with the Department of Health and we'll hopefully be able to offer something similar to the testing outside of school hours for any parent who might want to take advantage of it. And then the final item for me is something that just appears later on in the agenda, which is that we were notified of our ARP ESR 3 allocations. Those are the American Rescue Plan allocations to school districts. We have a resolution to accept that funding. It totals $1.2 million. It's non-recurring, but it can be used over the course of the next couple of years. And we're generating plans on how to most appropriately utilize it. It has certain categories. So for example, one category has to do with mental health supports for students, another has to do with professional development for teachers, another has to do with learning supports, other is potentially mitigation strategies for air purification, things like that. So we're in the process of working through some plans that can always be amended, but the final date of submittal for the application is November 24th. So after we resolve that we will, take advantage of that funding, then at the next couple of committee meetings that we have through the month of November, we'll discuss potential options. But certainly mental health and learning and social emotional support for students will be at the top of the list. And that's it for my report.
Mike, just a quick question on the vaccine clinic for students that are age 5 through 11. Did the Department of Health give you an indication of how quickly they can ramp up if they get approval on, say, Wednesday or Thursday? Is it a matter of weeks or days?
I think days, but that really does depend when they receive and what we have scheduled in terms of building availability and that sort of thing.
Okay. And how will you notify parents? Because they're not waiting for the board meeting to hear this, so will you send?
Yeah, I would send an email out, just,
Okay.
yeah, email blast.
Okay, very good. And it would be for only students in the district that go to our school, or anybody in town? Because we have some kids that are in private school as well.
The discussion, I guess, right now would be for Chatham students, but I don't
Okay.
think they're going to turn anyone away if,
Okay, perfect.
someone shows up with a child who resides in Chatham.
Great, okay. I just wanted to clarify. Excellent. Any other questions for Dr. LaSousa on any of those items? No? Good stuff. Okay, Peter, construction?
Just two quick housekeeping items for everyone's calendar. The next board meeting on November 15th will be held at the middle school auditorium right on 480 Main Street due to the continued set building and the high school play. The other note, tomorrow is Election Day in the borough. Both the middle school front gymnasium and the Washington School gymnasium are polling places. So if you see extra people going in and out of the school, that is the reason. On the construction update, the roofers working on the high school are still been diligent. Unfortunately, the weekend weather has slowed their progress, but on Sunday they worked on the cafeteria roof. This week, starting on Wednesday afternoon, they'll go straight through Sunday, working on finishing the cafeteria roof, the main office area roof, the two sections of the teacher lobby and copy room, and that will only leave the area on the home ec art room wing left.
Which wing? I'm sorry.
The front lower wing, which has the home ec classes and the art rooms.
Okay,
So they're making steady progress. We just need weekend weather to hold up.
and if all the lights are green, when can all that white stuff come off the lawn?
The white stuff will come off the lawn because the bulk of that is for the art room, home ec room that's left. So then they'll all be gone, say, hopefully Thanksgiving.
Okay. Yeah, I know weather's a big factor, but,
Yeah.
They're working, right? They're working,
They're working whenever they can. The issue they have is if they need a dry day to do the rip-off, and then they can come back and do follow-up work during the day when school's in session. But if they don't do the rip-off, they can't do follow-up work. So
okay. But you expect them, like schools are closed at the end of this week, they're gonna,
they were told that they can start work full-time, full force, 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon,
okay,
and go
great.
straight through to Sunday night.
Okay, perfect.
So,
Excellent. Any questions for Peter on the construction?
and
No. Excellent, thank you. Committee reports, starting with you, Mrs. Ciccarelli, on personnel.
We have not met since our last board meeting. We are meeting on Wednesday, November 10th.
Ms. Kenny, curriculum?
Curriculum has not met since our last meeting.
Are these the 10th or next week? When are we meeting? Oh, the 10th is
It is
the-
next week,
God, I
yeah.
lost another week of my life.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the 10th. Thank you. Mr. Gilfillan, Finance and Facilities.
Yes, we met on October 13th, discussed the capital work stuff that Pete just referenced. We spoke about our food services. So far, participation is higher than anticipated. Chartwell's been able to make the adjustments in order to staff this. They're going to continue to expand menu options in November. Transportation update, which everybody knows there are issues. So far, First Student has been covering every district route. In the afternoon, there are usually 1 or 2 buses that run late due to drivers doing 2 routes, but we're continuing to work on this, working on altering some of the start times for next year. Esr funding, there's going to be $1 million available to us. It looks like we're going to be able to apply towards HVAC upgrades, which of course are required and under some of the referendum issues that we're trying to work through. We continue to speak about this referendum with a target date of December 2022. We're going to basically lump everything into kind of 3 verticals: safety and security, curricular, extracurricular, and facility improvements, so we can get a survey out to the taxpayers and discuss and look at things that we believe will be supported and want to take forward. And then last but not least, I'm not quite sure if this has happened, but there is an update that girls' ice hockey might be an approved sport by the NJSSIA. If that does, then it leads to potential some funding issues for us, but
That's not an approved sport?
no.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Huh. Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt on any of those? When do they anticipate that being an approved sport, girls' hockey, ice hockey?
Pete, do we have a date on that, or, I don't know, Mo?
I don't know when the meeting was, and I was off last week, so I didn't get to follow up with Mo.
Okay.
And I'm sure if the meeting occurred, knowing Mo, he would have sent an email.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Mr. Orion is not here today. Mr. Del Sandro, could you take care of policy?
Yeah, sure. We met on October 13th, just prior to, or just after the finance meeting, and we discussed curriculum and the interpretation of the curriculum by the public. We discussed paraprofessionals and for the after-school enrichment program, which we're shy on paraprofessionals. And Mike LaSousa explained that the district no longer includes para coverage for the IEP, in the IEPs for the after-school enrichment program. Each student is addressed as a case-by-case basis, and it was suggested that students provide support as opposed to paraprofessionals as part of their community service requirements. I'm not sure if we were, do you have anything more on that when we're talking about the, no, okay. It was also suggested that Play Unify could assist. Mike will follow up on that. We discussed COVID testing for students, which Mike has covered right now. Pretty much you went through that. Let's see. We discussed new policies that Jill had asked for clarification on at the last board meeting, which is 10/11, and let's see, they were created by Strauss Esme, and to document everything that was being done. These policies are prompted by the Office of the Financial Accountability Commission, documents from all the rules from the state that the district had been following. Clarification on policy number 5116 was also requested. Mike LaSousa reported that the change in the policy is that of the district that the district needs to update the state agency regarding the homeless student. Basically, that's a homeless policy, and he's got to follow that and to verify the district's exposure and the length of time and services that we need to provide for such a thing. Policy Alert 225, Strauss Esme summary, school employee vaccination requirements we discussed, which is okay for first reading tonight. Let's see, we discussed emergency for virtual and remote instruction programming, sexual harassment of students and transgender students, those policies as well. All three policies were discussed and will be reviewed and discussed again at our next meeting, which is, I'm not sure when that next meeting is yet.
17th.
On the 17th. And lastly, contracts for goods and services funded by federal grants.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, my question, the Strauss Esme ones on the federal awards, funds, and internal controls, those are new, and I was just, we have so many policies, like so many. Are these over and above what we already have regarding funding? I mean, I printed them out here. I mean,
I will go back out, and they basically, I think the government wanted full documentation on how the districts were handling all of the money they were giving out, since the start of COVID.
right, but that's my point. Don't we have policies in place already that we have?
We have financial and internal controls and procedures that basically we do everything that they've asked already. So it's just a way of documenting another step for the district to do this. We get audited every year and have had a clean audit. with all of our purchasing policies and procedures. So for us, it's just, okay, we just meet another standard now.
Yeah, I think the genesis of the policies was that OFAC, which is I think reports to the Commissioner's office, but it's the Office of Financial Accountability and something else,
Compliance.
did an audit of compliance, did an audit of school districts in New Jersey and found that some weren't, didn't have the proper controls in place. And then this recommendation went out as part of their audit, and Strauss Esme and other law firms, school boards, all put out policies that they think districts should have in place regarding purchasing and spending of federal grants and so forth.
Understood, but reporting back to the federal government on these funds, Peter, does this put more work on the business administration, or it's just additional, just more of the same?
It's more of the same. It's all in the checklist when you apply for the funds to get the reimbursement.
Okay.
So it's just another step that we just have to, steps we have to follow.
Okay, so you don't see an issue implementing these?
If they're giving us the money, we'll do what we need to do to get it.
I hear you. Yeah, okay. I just don't want to keep putting more and more in the business office, because there becomes a risk, right? If there's more work than people.
For the amount of money we're getting, we can easily, happily do the work.
Okay, understood. Any other questions for Chris or anybody else on policy, which is pretty much Bradley? No? Excellent. Very good. So we're going to move on to liaisons, if anybody has a report. Lotta?
I do. Last Thursday, Chatham Education Foundation hosted a virtual town hall with Dr. LaSousa, where he gave an overview of what's been happening in the district, and then took questions from the audience. And the Education Foundation is going through its annual appeals, so if you could go to chathamedfoundation.org and consider making a donation to their programs. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And I do have one from the Performing Arts. And again, for those that are fairly new to board meetings, the liaison position, we just try and make announcements for that particular group. So for the Performing Arts, the high school theater department is hard at work preparing for our fall production, Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibilities. Performances will take place on Thursday, November 18th for senior citizens, students, and faculty at 4 o'clock, and on Friday and Saturday, the 19th and 20th at 7:30 for the general public. Tickets will go on sale this Monday, November 8th, and the link is on the website, but it's chathamhs.booktick.com, but it is on our website. The music department is excited to announce another performance opportunity for our 5th and 6th grade chorus and other small ensembles on December 15th, when our department, in partnership with the Chatham Performing Arts Boosters and Chatham Borough, will host a night of music downtown at a few different locations: the Gazebo, which is in Reasoner Park, Memorial Park, and Bicentennial Park. So more details to come on that, but the 4th and 5th graders on December 15th will be downtown performing. Any other items? Nope. Excellent. So I make a motion to pass the minutes of October 11th. The only board member that was not present was Sal, so everybody here can vote on those. There was no executive session. So all those in favor of passing the meetings of October, I need a second, I'm sorry.
Was there, I wasn't there, was there
We did have
executive,
an
Mike, or no?
executive session.
There was an executive
There
session,
was an
right?
There
executive
was no
session.
executive last
Oh,
meeting.
sorry.
There was not an executive session.
There was an executive session, I thought.
It was.
There was an executive
was.
session
There was an
after the
exec-
meeting,
After the meeting, there was an executive session.
After the meeting.
There was an executive
Yeah,
session, you're
yeah.
correct,
Yeah.
yes.
so it's the regular and executive minutes.
Yes,
Okay, I'll write that in.
write it in.
The heading says regular and executive, the other,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? There is no abstentions.
duly noted, the regular and executive minutes passed 6-0.
As a point of order, though, it does say dash public session.
Yeah, I know, I corrected it this morning after it got printed. Or I corrected the verbiage in the resolution, but missed
Got it. Excellent.
the bullet.
Oh, very good. So we have our first opportunity for public comments. A notice of the public comments hearings of citizens during public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. And again, if you could just introduce yourself, that would be great. And again, we'll answer what we can at the end after we close it, but as normal, this is not a back and forth. This is an opportunity for the public to speak. If you could introduce yourself, and the floor is all yours, we will not interrupt.
Hi, I'm Amy Reale, and I am coming here representing Chatham CPEG, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. And just two things. One, we wanted to thank Lotta Kenny for coming to our event on dyslexia awareness. And it was our event with the library, I should say, our joint event. So thank you for taking the time as a board member to come. That was appreciated. And secondly, Chatham CPEG posed 3 questions to all our candidates running for Board of Ed. So I wanted to let the community know that candidates answered those questions, and they are posted on our website, chathamcpeg.com. Click under announcements, and you can hear those who responded, their responses, or read them. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Hi, my name is Jason Spindell, my wife Fiorenza. We live here in Chatham. For the members of the board and Dr. LaSousa, we sent a letter to you all last week, and thank you to those that acknowledged and responded. And Dr. LaSousa, thank you for the extra time spent Thursday night at the town hall. I know you went over, but very much appreciate the engagement with the families and parents. It was a great session. So the topic we wanted to address this evening, much like the letter we sent, is the topic of full-day kindergarten for all Chatham kindergartners who are interested. As we mentioned, we're concerned about the current system that does not avail itself of full-day kindergarten for all students, which results in, as many of you agreed, significant inequities for the students that are limited to a half-day program. One of the things that we wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on was coming out of the pandemic. The schools have noted the success that they've had being flexible, right? Because we had no other choice. And some of the programs that resulted from that situation, like Art on a Cart and mobile music, which if we're to continue in those forms would free up 1 to 2 classrooms per elementary school, which by our understanding would create some of the necessary capacity to support a full-day program, given the commentary that space has been the #1 constraint limiting factor for the 10+ years that the district has been focused on this. So I know this isn't necessarily a back and forth, but it'd be helpful for us to understand if that's been explored, and if not, what other certain initiatives are ongoing in the exploration of availing additional space, and if not that, then the fallback of what is the estimated cost for the schools to build out that classroom space.
I'm going to answer at the end, Jason.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything you want? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. But stick around. I'm sorry. Sign in, right, Jason? Were you able to sign in? If you don't mind, that'd be great. Oh.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Cullen. I live here in Chatham Borough. I come tonight to speak to you with. I come tonight to speak regarding some questions, concerns I have about the Chatham's pending plan for the school-located vaccination clinic, as discussed tonight and at the October 11th Board of Ed meeting. I'm not here to discuss the pros or cons of vaccination for those under age 11, but I am here to discuss this potential plan of performing medical interventions at places of learning. While I understand there is a push to offer vaccines at schools for convenience purposes, I'm here to ask the board about the need to do so here in Chatham. As of August 19th, which are the latest stats I could find, 81% of all eligible Chatham students were vaccinated. I assume that number's higher by now. And that rate occurred without school-located vaccination clinics and without the recent green light from the FDA to administer the COVID vaccines in pediatricians' offices. Per the COVID dashboard for COVID case numbers in our schools, there have been 32 reported cases in total amongst all students and staff between August 30th and November 1st. That number represents 0.007% of our staff and student population. And I will point out that these are PCR confirmed case only. No information is known on how sick any of these 32 individuals became. Breaking down those numbers even further to look just at the K through 5 schools, there were 16 cases in that same time period amongst the staff and students, which represents 0.009% of that population. So with this data in mind, I ask all of you if there is an actual need in our town to provide medical interventions at our schools. It is also necessary to point out that based on numerous media and scientific reports, the Delta surge has ended, with national numbers trending down every day. Another factor indicating that additional access to the COVID vaccines is not emergently needed, especially in our town with such low case numbers. I'm going to switch gears for a second and ask if the school district does decide to offer these clinics on school campuses. I do have some questions based on the information provided in the CDC's considerations for planning school-located vaccination clinics mass clinic guidelines. And I do have a few questions. So first, what vaccines will be administered in these clinics? Some school districts are utilizing these clinics to give flu, COVID, and other routine vaccinations. What is your plan, and who will decide what vaccines are given, and who keeps track of that information? Secondly, who will be administering these vaccines? Nurses, pharmacy techs, trained volunteers? As parents, I think we should know beforehand who is injecting our children. And third, will these clinics definitely be offered after school hours? It has been alluded that that would be the ideal time, but has not been said definitely. For our children's mental health, it seems important that these clinics are held later in the day. Fourth, how will these school-located vaccination clinics handle any potential, albeit rare, adverse events such as anaphylaxis or syncope? What type of protocol will be in place if any kind of reaction occurs? And finally, how will consent be obtained? Will a parent be required to be present? I want full transparency for our parent community. I want to hear from our Board of Ed and our superintendent what emergent need is present in our town to warrant providing medical interventions on school campuses. And I also want to learn how all the many logistics will be handled if it is decided to go forward with this plan. And in closing, it has been emphasized at prior Board of Ed meetings that policies implemented are often dependent upon funding. So at tonight's meeting, I also want to hear if the Chatham School District will get any money from the state of New Jersey if these clinics are offered on more than one of our campuses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from anybody? No? Nobody from over here? Nothing? Okay, excellent. So I'm going to close the first public commentary and then just go in order. So Amy, thank you again for your announcements. Appreciate that on behalf of CPAG. And Matt, did you want to comment on Jason's full-day kindergarten? Since you're the master of coin, and then I'll follow up with anything.
One thing that jumped off at me was just because classrooms open up doesn't mean they're actually usable for kindergarten. And the biggest reason is you need bathroom services in all of our kindergarten rooms. So just because we have some space opening up doesn't mean that. The second one is that we have to look at this from an operational perspective. Just because we have open classrooms doesn't mean we have the staffing that is qualified to teach at that level. So we have to, before we implement something like that, we can't do it overnight. We have to look at our staffing numbers, and we would have to identify additional dollars in order to bring in someone that could teach at that level. That's, that's the more nebulous thing, but it's another thing that we need to think about. And So there's a lot that goes into this decision. It's been one that I've been in this thing for 13 years. We've been looking at it forever. But it's not just as black and white, just to kind of flip the switch and say we're going to move towards full-day kindergarten. There's multiple different variables that need to be analyzed. There's multiple different cost issues that need to be looked at and see whether or not we can do it on an absolute basis. Because if we go full-day kindergarten, we're going to have to guarantee it to everybody within the district. So I guess until we can get to the point whereby we are fully comfortable with offering it to 100%, it's where we're going to be restricted going forward.
Right, that's right, Matt. And if you recall, which I know Matt does, we did put out a referendum in 2015 in order to fund what was necessary for full-day kindergarten. That referendum did not pass. But we all know that students would benefit from full-day kindergarten. There's no secret there. What we have been able to do is we started with one full-day kindergarten tuition-based, and now we've gotten up all the way to 4. It's not enough. We're going to keep trying to add as we can, where we can. But as Matt said, there's a lot of things that have to fall into place. And we'd have to offer it at all. So some people say, oh, let's just do it at Southern. Well, that's great, but Washington and Milton have kindergartners too. So all 3 buildings are going to have to be treated equally if we're going to do it at all and not tuition-based. So the goal is to get to 100%. We need certain types of classrooms. For kindergartens, you have to have more square footage, so you can't just convert a 3rd grade class into a kindergarten class. But as our enrollment drops, to your point, we have been able to offer more. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. Is it better than we were? Sure. So if anybody paid attention to Dr. Lusousa's town hall, it's all about moving in the right direction, moving forward, adding as what we can within the budget, within the physical space. I don't think anybody disagrees that full-day kindergarten is beneficial. It's just a matter of how do we get there. We're better off than we were 5 years ago, but we're not where we want to be yet. Dr. Lusousa, did you want to?
Yes, well, I don't know any superintendent who doesn't believe in full-day kindergarten. And north of 85% of districts in New Jersey offer full-day kindergarten without charge to all the students in the district. So that, speaking for myself, that's the goal. I think that the ideas or the suggestions that we free up space by repurposing some space or taking what we've learned from the pandemic and maybe making that something routine is reasonable and worth exploring. Historically, we have looked at that before. Historically, that hasn't yielded enough classrooms. So like if you take Washington Avenue School, and this has changed as our enrollment has declined the last few years, but if at Washington Avenue School you had 4 half-day kindergarten sections, that they occupy 2 classrooms. So obviously if you go from half-day to full-day, you need 4 classrooms. But in reality, you need 5 because it's not just the students who are coming to half-day now who convert into full-day. It's all the students who are privately placed in full-day kindergartens, then return to the district. Every year we have a big jump in enrollment between kindergarten and 1st grade because so many parents pay for private full-day kindergarten outside of the district. And so at Washington Avenue and Southern Boulevard School in particular, repurposing the music and art rooms wouldn't have always gotten us there. The other issue, of course, is those are 2 subjects that are actually pretty resource intense. So, you know, the music rooms are filled with small instruments and all kinds of stuff that kids might, play or that the teacher might introduce to students. Art obviously requires paint and pastels and paper and clay and all kinds of stuff that, number one, is you will diminish what the teacher is able to deliver in terms of an art program if the teacher is on a cart. Number 2, it generates a lot of cleanup, which then interrupts instructional time if you're pushing the art teacher into the classroom. And then the other thing, of course, is if you move art to a cart, you're not just giving art on a cart to the kindergartners, you're ensuring that every student in that school, all 400 of them or however many, don't ever get art in a proper setting. So you're diminishing the art program experience for the students in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Now, I think it's reasonable to ask, is that worth it? And it may well be. To have full-day kindergarten and a full program for all students may well be worth it. It may also not be worth it, or at least there's a counter argument that our students who are here designing sets and enrolled in AP art classes at the high school, it could well be that their interest and creativity and the sparks that they enjoyed from art began when they were in the earlier grades and had exposure to a full rich program in a full setting dedicated to art. So it's a longer discussion that I think we'd have to look at more closely and talk with more folks. I'd say right now, though, the other danger is that if we could squeeze out as many, every inch of space and repurpose and change programs and this and that, if our enrollment goes up, then you have to scale back, or you have to increase class sizes, or you have to build. And building, at least last time we went out, if my memory is right, it cost about $700,000 a classroom. I think Milton was where we built because it was a little less than that, maybe $500,000 or $600,000, because we had the 2 stories and we could build one on top of the other. But that takes time and is very expensive. So it's, like Matt was alluding to, you want to be at a point where you can ensure you can maintain the program long-term, and you're not going to dive into something for a year and then the enrollment grows a little bit and you have to scale it back again.
Are you legally allowed to scale it back? Once you offer full-day kindergarten, are you allowed?
Sure.
Oh, you can, okay. I thought we were bound once you offered it.
No, and I think, this year we'll evaluate how much space we have for next year and whether or not we can move from the 4 sections up to 5, or do we have to go back to 3?
Okay,
Hopefully, we'll keep moving up in the right direction.
right, that's the goal. That's the goal. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on full-day kindergarten? Okay, then moving on to the last, the third public commentary. That the clinic will be run by the Department of Health. It will not be run by the Chatham District Board of Education, for sure. Dr. LaSousa, you speak more with the Board of Health, so I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yes, well, I mean, the answer to most of the questions is the Department of Health. The Department of Health would administer the vaccines, at least that's the only thing I've discussed with them. It would be after school hours. The Department of Health handles the consent and the adverse events. The Department of Health has been staging clinics for a while, for 6 months or however long vaccines have been available. So they're well-versed in staging clinics, and they will obtain the consent. It's really like we're providing a site the same way we do when the Boy Scouts use our facility for something. The Department of Health is just coming here, and then they are running their show here.
Right.
I will say we've done this before. I was high school principal during the H1N1 pandemic. They administered vaccines, the Madison Department of Health did at the time, right out of our nurse's office in the high school. So it's not that unusual. We have a flu vaccine clinic here every year for all of our staff and their children. We usually do that in October. And we have medical interventions taking place every day in our schools. We have nurses who have to, use catheters with students, and we have students who have to check their blood sugar frequently. We have all kinds of interventions, but our nurses wouldn't be the ones administering vaccines. This would be the Department of Health coming in with their vaccine doses, assuming, again, that the Pfizer, the only one that's up on tap
Pfizer.
right now this week is Pfizer. And
Correct.
I think tomorrow the CDC is meeting on it. So the way that the DOH explained it to me, as soon as they receive the doses and know that it's been green lighted, then they want to get up and running.
Okay, and it's just a convenience. We're just offering the space as a convenience. Similar to, we run a blood drive every December for a student, Michael DiMaggio, who was in a very bad car accident years ago, hit by a car. And his blood drive is December 5th this year, so if you have an opportunity, please sign up to give blood. But the Red Cross comes in and they just use the facility, so it's just a convenient way for Chatham residents to donate blood. And they use the cafeteria, so they use much the same space. So you could check that out as well. We do that every year. We've done that every year since he was in middle school. He's now in college, by the way. Any other questions or comments about that? Every board member, write that down, December 5th, blood drive. Very good. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to move on to the regular agenda. Again, these are posted on Friday afternoon, so if it appears we go through them fairly quickly, it's because we've already read through them. So Ann, if you wouldn't mind, personnel?
I want to move agenda items A1 to A23 on the regular agenda for vote.
Does anybody have any questions on any of the personnel items?
Like to wish our retirees the best.
Ugh, I'm always so jealous. Go ahead, Peter, no questions.
Did I miss the second? I did.
No,
Okay,
I-
thank you,
I-
thank you, Brad.
Fred?
All right. Agenda items A1 to A23. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 6-0.
Excellent. The only thing I would like to point out is every personnel we move, we add more substitutes. I'm just going to reach out to the parents of college-age kids, if you can ask them if they have a long winter break, maybe they can apply to be substitutes. We can use more substitutes in the district, so if you're available and able to, just go on the website, and there's a quick application there. You just need to get a quick fingerprint, background check, and you're off to the races. So, like University of Delaware has a painfully long break, because I have 2 kids there. So they can, if you have Delaware kids, for example, or if they're not taking a winter term someplace, if they have 60 credits or more, they can substitute in the district. So just a public service announcement out there we really could use some extra substitutes. Excellent. So moving on to finance and facilities, Matt?
Yes, I'd like to move action items B1 to 15 on your regular agenda.
Second.
Just one, thank you for the annual donation from the athletic boosters for the $2,500 to fund half the cost for the portable lights for Cougar Weekend.
Huh? Did it happen? Yeah, it happened. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago.
I'm an empty nester, I don't know anymore.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Excellent. And the nurse's office, Mike, that is to bring that up to ADA compliance?
Yes.
Construction at the high school nurse's office, is that similar to what was done at the middle school?
Yes.
Is there any economy of scale that our architects can use any of the previous plans, or no, because they're,
I don't think
the
so.
space is there?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally different spaces.
Okay, just trying to save a dime.
Widening doorways and such.
Okay, very good, thank you. Thought I'd ask. Any other questions for Matt or anybody else on finance? Go ahead, Peter, thank you.
Agenda items B1 through 15. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes,
Agenda items passed 6-0.
excellent, thank you. Ms. Kenny?
Yes, I'd like to move agenda items C1 to C3 for vote.
I'll second it if nobody has.
What? No?
Okay, you can ask any questions on those anyway. So Peter, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask for verification on the second. Thank you. Agenda items C1 to 3. Mr. Gilfillan? Yes. Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes,
Agenda items passed 6-0.
excellent. Chris, would you mind passing the policy items?
Sure. I'd like to move agenda items D1 to D3.
I'll second that.
Okay, and these were the policies I asked about last weekend or earlier. Thank you for the clarification. Are you going to come back, Mike or Chris, with the other one, the student, that'll come back at another time?
Yes.
That was
I confirmed with our attorney. There's no time limit
No
on
time
that.
limit, okay. Excellent. Peter, go ahead, thank you.
Sure. Agenda items D1 to D3. Mr. Gilfillan? Yes. Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes,
Agenda items passed 6-0.
excellent, thank you. So board business now, does anybody have any items, old or new, they want to bring up? No? No. Mike, do we have any calendar changes that we need to discuss? June, or we're, no, we're good?
I don't think so at the present time.
Okay. For some reason, I have that looming in the back of my head. And when will we start working on 23, 24? Will that be first of the year, February?
Yes, yep.
Timeframe? Okay, excellent. And then the only thing I would like to remind you of is coming back to the board and working with policy regarding start times?
Yes. What Peter is waiting to hear from First Student on some parameters that we sent them 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And as soon as we do, that'll give us a better, I'll be able to kind of move to the next step.
Just before the world shut down, that March meeting, we were going to do a presentation on start times because New Jersey's on a bit of an island in how late we start compared to the rest of the nation. And I don't know if, Ann, you recall seeing that presentation in Atlantic City on start times, which I thought was enlightening. Now, we don't need the whole presentation, but maybe if you can do a little summary of that when you're ready. It doesn't have to be at the next board meeting. But I would like the board to maybe hear that and hear the public, because I think there's solid rationale for that. And again, it's not shortening summer, because we still have to go to school 180 days. It's just shifting it a little bit. So, Mike, can you tee that up again?
Sure.
We had lost some traction on that, so I just want to make sure that stays on the front burner.
Sure.
I mean, certainly not to derail house on fire things, but if that can still, I want to move that forward, or at least have an open discussion and dialogue. Before, I don't want to introduce it in September. I want to really hash it out and have people fully understand the rationale. Not everybody's going to agree with it. Some people will agree, some people vehemently disagree, but I'd like to start having active dialogues on that. And the goal is, again, to get the high schoolers to start later because they need more sleep, and possibly shift the younger kids a little bit, maybe not too much. And a lot depends on busing. This may be completely pie in the sky. I can't do anything because of the national bus shortage, and that we're constrained with. So I'm just going to keep asking you to. I just want to keep it on the foreground. Okay. Any other comments? No? Excellent. Okay, great. We have our second opportunity for public commentary. If you wouldn't mind just signing in. And introducing yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Lois. Thank you, first of all, for responding to Kristen's questions. I have a follow-up regarding the need for school vaccine clinics because, this is very different from having blood drives. So on the CDC website, they list considerations for planning school-located vaccination clinics. It states to start by considering the need for school location vaccination clinics and feasibility of offering it. Is there a local need? Are there sufficient resources and staff? So you addressed those two already, thank you. And the third part, is there adequate community and stakeholder support? So on this question, I'm wondering how or are you planning to solicit any kind of parent or community input feedback through surveys or any other type of, communications to confirm whether the decision to do this is going to be something that parents will value, parents think is a priority at the time. So I would appreciate some insight on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Libby Hilsenrath, Chatham Borough. I just have a question with the elections coming up tomorrow. In the borough, we can vote for 2 people who reside in the borough, and in the township, people can vote for 2 people who reside in the township. As a unified school district, I think it was back in 1986 or 88 that we combined to become one.
88, yep.
Okay. The school district of the Chathams. So what I'm wondering is why residents from both the township and the borough can't vote for all of the 4 open seats, since we are one district. So if you could let me know at some point, that'd be great. I couldn't find the answer online. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Jason again. Linden Lane here in Chatham. Just a follow-up question on the full-day kindergarten. When, Mr. Gilfillan and the rest of the members of the board, we heard, some of the back and forth in terms of, why it's difficult or why it may be an attractive solution. I guess the question, help us understand, is there an ongoing effort or committee that is proactively exploring it? Is it based purely on enrollment numbers? And then maybe just to kind of go back in time a little bit, you said you've made progress from 0 to 2 to 4 sessions. I guess a question, was there thought given to, having full-day kindergarten to some actually exacerbates the inequity as opposed to just waiting till you are able to offer it to all who would be interested? Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to add, the reason that this is so important to us is because we have a son who's in half-day kindergarten at SBS right now, and we have a daughter who's going to be there in 2 years. And I'm seeing firsthand from him when he comes home the difference between what he's experiencing and what the full-day kindergartners are experiencing. I mean, our son is someone who loves to learn, and he's telling me that all he's doing all day is sitting in the classroom, and he can't even tell me who sits next to him because there's no time to socialize. So there's a lot of social development that's being missed with the half-day programs. So when the kids then all come together in first grade, there's a lot of inequity between what the half-day kindergartners are used to and what they're ready to explore in first grade, as opposed to what the first graders who were in full-day kindergarten are ready to experience. And so it's very important to us that we move toward this full-day program for everyone, so that because as the program stands right now, with some kids having the half-day program and some kids having the full-day program, in our minds it's almost better if it's all or nothing, because it does result in this difference in experience and difference in readiness and preparedness for first grade, and really sets up the half-day kindergarten students for a very different rest of their experience. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Fiorenza Spindel. I'll write it down.
Oh, perfect, thank you. Thank you. Any additional public comments before we close public comment session? No? None. Okay, so go back in order. Ms. Lois Nicole, no, we're not going to do a survey, and I guess parents can just not use the service. It's going to be run by the Department of Health. Sorry, I lost, oh, there she is. Sorry, Nicole. It's going to be run by the Department of Health, and parents don't have to use it. It's just a convenience. If they want to use it, great. If they don't, and they feel more comfortable going to their pediatrician or not getting vaccinated at all, totally up to them. Ms. Hilsenrath, I'm going to answer it as best I can, but Peter may want to chop in. Unfortunately, we're 2 municipalities. Until the municipalities merge as one, the voting districts are decided by the fact that there were 2 municipalities. We are actually a regional school district because the 2 municipalities send. So until the 2 towns merge into 1 town, it will always be the school district. Unfortunately, the voting will be the township votes for the township, borough votes for the borough, and the split is 5 members on the board come from the township and 4 come from the borough. Peter, anything to add on that?
I could not have said it better. Even though we are the school district of the Chathams, we are a regional school district, very similar to Watchung Hills Regional High School, which has students from Warren, Watchung, and Long Hill as their voting contingencies.
Great, thanks, Peter. And the last one, full-day kindergarten. We do talk about it constantly. I would say that I don't think there's any appetite to throw out the entire program because we can't quite offer it for everybody yet. I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I don't think there's any appetite for that. We do talk about it often. It comes up in finance and curriculum and policy, so it's not like we wait really hardly any time at all. It's something we want, somewhere we want to get to. Again, we went from 0 to 2 to 4, so we're making progress. Again, not ideal. Nobody's arguing that full-day kindergarten isn't better across the board, socially, academically. It's just that we just aren't there yet. That was the goal in 2015. That referendum did not pass, but we didn't say, oh, well, nobody wants it. We still move forward, even though it did not pass in a referendum. We just had to find other ways, more creative ways, but directionally, we are moving in the right direction. Matt, did you want to add anything? Mike?
I'd only mention that the inequities were always there because every year, even when we had no full-day kindergarten programs, a quarter or a third of our kids, when they hit first grade, were coming from full-day programs like Montessori schools, and our teachers had to figure out how to address the students who had half-day programs and the students in the same classroom who had full-day programs. It isn't ideal, but our teachers have become accustomed to that because they've always had to do it. If anything, now we have a little bit more control and we can prioritize what the half-day kids are getting in relation to what full-day kindergartners get. But for sure, the ideal situation is to have all students getting full-day kindergarten. And our declining enrollment is what is enabling us right now to continue to increase the number of sections that we offer.
Yeah, does anybody else have anything they want to add? Again, not ideal, but moving in the right direction. And again, we don't talk about this annually, we talk about this constantly. It's just how do we solve the problem and just move in the right direction. Any other comments from the board? We do not have an executive session. So I make a motion to close the public session. Nobody else has anything else? No? Excellent. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you for the comments. They were all good conversations. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great night. Drive safely. Be careful. The homecoming dance may still be going on, so please be careful of students.